Alright, so the first way that we solved these was graphing. Anybody tell me what we did after graphing? No. What did we do after that? Well, we didn't even do a formula.
Parent function.
No. What did we do? How did we solve it first? By taking what? What did we had? No, we had something where it was like x squared equals 64. What did we do with that when there was no middle term? No, we didn't square it, we took the square root. Yep, so be careful with that. Okay, so we took the square root of both sides and we got x equals 8 and x equals -8. Good. Okay? Then, after we did the square root method, what did we do? Give you a clue, we spent all of last week on it. We factored it, yes. We spent all of last week factoring. Today, we're going to do completing the square. Okay? Completing the square is my favorite. Okay? It's not the easiest, but I don't know, I think it's the most fun. So, if I have, let's go with x squared plus 6x plus 4 equals, no, 5 plus 5 equals 0. Okay, Caleb, you need to put that away and pay attention, please. Alright, so the first step of completing the square is it needs to be in the form of x squared plus bx equals a number. So to get that, what do I have to do to get it to look like that? Yeah, we gotta get that 5 over to the other side. So we're gonna subtract 5. Okay, so the way we're gonna write this is x squared plus 6x, and then we're gonna leave a blank. So leave a blank there because we're gonna write something in there. Equals what? -5. Alright, now it says to take half of b. Well, what's my b? My b, well, it's not 6x, it's 6. So if I take half of 6, I get 3. Okay, and then I have to take that number and square it. So 3 squared gives me 9. Okay? And what does it tell me to do with that 9? We're going to add it to both sides. So that's why I left a spot here. So I'm going to go plus 9 and plus 9 because I'm going to add it on to both sides. Okay? So now I have x squared plus 6x plus 9 equals 4. Okay. Step 5 is going to be to factor the left side. And the reason why this is called completing the square, okay, is because this left side is going to be a perfect square, which means x plus, how do I get to 9? 3, and x plus 3, right? So it's 2 the same, so how do I write that? Yeah, so we're actually going to write this as x plus 3 squared. Now all of them that we do from now on, you can skip this step, because this is going to look how they're going to look every single time. Okay? Equals who?
Oh, yeah.
Equals 4. Alright. Okay. Step 6. Take the square root of both sides. Okay? We will get, when we do this, we're going to get two equations. Okay, I want to make sure that we're writing out these steps. Okay, so if I take, or when I take, the square root of this side and the square root of this side, if I have x plus 3 squared and I take the square root, what does it just get rid of? It just gets rid of that squared, right? So we have x plus 3 equals 2, and x plus 3 equals negative 2, yeah, because remember, over here when we took the square root of 64, we got 8 and negative 8. Okay, so over here, we got x plus 3 equals 2, x plus 3 equals negative 2. Right? What do you suppose our last step's going to be? Yeah, solve both equations. So I'm going to solve this step. Subtract 3, x equals negative 1. Subtract 3, x equals negative 5. So our two answers are negative 1 and negative 5. It is a long process. It gets shorter once you get used to it. Okay? Once we do a couple more of these, you'll be like, oh, okay, I totally get this.
I have a question.
Yes.
With the 6x up there, what did you do with that when you did the x plus 3?
Well, okay, so 3 times 3 gives me 9. 3 plus 3 gives me 6. Okay, so remember that's how we factor those? Okay, good question. Alright, so now we have x squared plus 8x equals 180. Okay, now, is this already in the form as x squared plus bx? Yeah, it's already in that form, right? So, I'm just going to rewrite it so that I have that space. X squared plus 8x, leave my blank, equals 180. Luckily, my 180 was already over here, so I didn't have to move it. Okay, so now, what do I have to do? I have to take b divided by 2, so what's my b? My b is 8. And we got to divide it by 2. So 8 divided by 2 gives me 4. And then what do I have to do with it? Square it. So 4 squared is 16. What am I going to do with that 16? Add it to both sides. Add 16, add 16. So it's more than just put it in that space, because you got to do it on both sides. Okay, now I'm going to take a little shortcut here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to factor this straight away. Okay, rather than rewrite it all out, I'm going to factor this into x. How am I getting to 16? 4 times 4 gives me 16. 4 plus 4 gives me 8. So x plus 4 squared equals 196. Alright, so that brings us what? Step 6? What do we do? Square root of both sides. X plus 4 equals 14. X plus 4 equals negative 14. Good. And then all I have left is to solve it. X equals 10. equals -18. Good stuff so far, right? Alright, let's do x squared plus minus 4x minus 165 equals 0. Step 1. Move the 165 over. So x squared minus 4x equals 165. Alright, what's my b? -4. Divided by 2 is -2. -2 squared is 4. What do I have to do with that 4? Add it to both sides. Plus 4, plus 4. Okay, what should I do to this side? What's that called? Factor it. So I have x, careful, there you go, minus 2 squared, right? Equals 169. Somebody's a step ahead of us. Now what? Square root of both sides. X minus 2 equals 13. X minus 2 equals -13. Add 2. X equals 15. X equals negative what? 11. Where are our questions so far? Is it starting to come a little bit now that we've done a couple of them? It's not as bad? Alright, flip to the last problem. Everybody do the first step. Try what is my first step? Alright, so we're going to move that 59. So x squared plus 16x equals what? -59. Good. Alright, so now everybody's got to figure out what they're going to add to both sides. Skylar, what would you add to both sides? Caleb, what did you add to both sides? A couple different answers. Liv, what do you think it is? The number that you're adding to both sides? Nishat, what do you add to both sides? Emily? Spencer? Okay, so let's go back and figure out how we do that. What number do I have to use? I'm using 16, and I'm doing what with it? Taking 16 and I'm dividing it by 2 and getting 8. And then what do I have to do with that 8? Square it, and I get 64. Good. So those of you that said 64, good job. We're going to add 64 to both sides. So be careful when we square those guys that we get the right one. Okay, what's your next step? Factor the left side, right? So everybody factor the left side. What did you get inside here? you're right with x plus 8, but it's just x plus 8 squared. Okay, it's always going to be the same thing squared. Okay, now if we look at all of these, does anybody see a pattern forming about what this number is going to be? It's going to be the square root of that, but where else do we see this number? Yeah? Yeah, it's always half of b. If you notice, okay, those of you that are seeing that pattern, this number always matches that number. That'll come in handy tomorrow when they're not all nice, pretty, perfect numbers. Equals 2. 5. Alright. Now what do I do? Alright, so if I'm taking the square root of this, do I have a nice, pretty, perfect square over here? No. How many decimal places do I use? 2. Always 2 decimal places. So x plus 8 equals, no, 2 decimal places. So that means after the decimal, 2 places. So it should be 2.2, pretty sure it's 4. Okay? And x plus 8 equals negative 2.24. Okay? And last step is to solve these guys. So minus 8, x equals what? Negative 5.76 minus 8, x equals negative 10.24. Okay, so not super easy, but like I said, I think they're the most fun when it comes to solving. But I know you all think it will be